entry level, but no future. Not even a future at all. You're a shepherd, you're a shepherd. Still that way today. Shepherds are at the bottom over in the Middle East. No, they're not the ones. In fact, in Bible days, and I don't know about today, but in Bible days, a shepherd, if he saw a crime, his testimony would not be accepted in a court. He had no rights in a court of law. He could say, this guy, mugged me or whatever. The judge won't listen to him. You're a shepherd. You don't belong in a court. They were not allowed. Their testimony meant nothing. Their condition was never to be acknowledged in a court. Isn't it interesting what God does? Who does he make the first witnesses to the birth of Christ? The shepherds. He goes right to the bottom. See, already we've got one impossibility. A virgin has a child. That's impossible. God does it. Now he has shepherds are witnesses. That's impossible. They're not allowed in a court. But they're the witnesses. They're the ones who are going to first go out and say that the Messiah has been born. We had an angel appear to us, and we went and saw the baby. It was exactly as had been said, but yet we don't count. But they were given the great privilege. They were favored. See, what men favor, God says, cast that aside. I don't favor King Herod. I don't favor all the Pharisees and the Sadducees, all the Jewish rulers that are hypocrites and don't really believe what they're teaching. I favor the people who are sincere and honest and maybe at the bottom, because I will raise them up. That's the way God acts. And so an angel comes to them. And again, they have to be told not to fear. Fear. And they accept that and receive it. And it's to the angels, then the words, the glory shone around, and the angels said, glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace among men with whom he is well pleased. That's said by the angels. Who heard that? Who could give testimony of that? The shepherds. They heard a choir of angels singing the good news, and it's given to these people who couldn't even go into a court and testify that they actually saw that. Isn't that interesting, how that works? Glory to God in the highest. They saw the glory of God, just like Moses saw it in the Old Testament. The glory has the idea of light, tremendous light. They saw the light. And, we even have at the end of time, book of Revelation, it says there'll be no need of sun or moon by night because Jesus is the light. He will be enough light. So there's going to be light emanating out from Jesus all over. And we won't need any artificial lights like the sun. We call the sun natural lights. So I guess we don't need a natural light anymore. We've got the real light. The light of the world, Jesus. He is the light. The shepherds feared harshness when the angel came down. They thought, oh boy, we're in trouble. Instead, they saw kindness. What do you see when you think of God, or when you think you might see God? Do you see a father who delights in his children, or do you see this mean guy who's going to try to zap you if you do something wrong? See, the shepherds had that mindset, but they changed when they saw what it was that God was coming to do. He was coming to bring deliverance, not judgment, deliverance. Now Jesus will appear a second time in which he will bring judgment. And I don't know when it is, but it will come. And people have been wondering when that day will be, still wondering. People fear it's December 21. My response was, I hope it is, because I have a lot of bills coming the next month. And I would be happy. But in case it doesn't, make sure you got plan B. How are you going to pay those bills? And I don't have that plan in place yet. But the shepherds were favored. Third, Jesus had favor, and he gave favor. Luke 4. This passage I'd like you to look at. Luke 4, 16 to 21. 30 years had passed between the what I just talked about, the shepherds, and the events of Luke chapter 4. 30 years, because Jesus had to wait to the age when they felt that you were worthy to be a priest or a prophet or anything connected with the service of the Lord. The age of 30 was the minimum age. In our country, to be president, you have to be how old?
35.
35. But a congressman can be 25, and a senator 30. But here, and so this is like a senator. Luke 4, verse 16. And it says there, so he came to Nazareth. Now Nazareth is his hometown. So he's coming home to his home church. The church there in Nazareth, the synagogue, where he had been brought up. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day. Imagine, for years, some guy would be up front reading from the scrolls, and they're singing their songs of praise to the Lord, and they don't know that God is sitting in their audience. He's sitting there listening patiently and quietly, thinking, well, oh boy, that's not the real interpretation there, but I guess I'll be quiet till I'm 30 years old, but I'll just sit and listen. Jesus sat there. Now, a lot of people say, I'm too busy to go to church. Imagine you're God and you still have time to go to church. There's all these things he could have been doing. But he still sat there in the synagogue on the Sabbath day. This time, he finally stands up and he's going to say something. And he was handed the book of the prophet Isaiah. God knew exactly which book to give him. And Jesus knew exactly where to open in the book. He wrote it. He probably could remember where it was. And it was way toward the end of the book of Isaiah. And he says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. And we could say it's the same word for favor there, that word acceptable. So we could say to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. The year of the Lord's favor. It's the same word we had to Mary and to the shepherds. Now Jesus himself says, this is the favorable year of the Lord. And the people knew what year that was. You know what year it was? It was the year of Jubilee. Every 50 years, and I believe the Catholics still have this, but they have it like 1900, 1950, 2000, so the next one is 2050. So I don't know if all of us will be celebrating that one, but every 50 years there's a Jubilee. And for the Jewish people, this would mean a time when you do all these things that are mentioned in these verses. The Israelites, when they entered the Promised Land, were told to have a Jubilee every 50 years. And those that had financial difficulties, often in those days, would have to lease or sell off their property because they were broke. Or they might have to say to somebody who they owed a lot of money, would you like a slave? And I'll pay off your debts, I'll just be your slave. And so they could either sell off their property or become a slave. Those were options. And it was a difficult time for them. So they waited for that year of Jubilee. And the year of Jubilee